Greetings everyone, TLOU Strategist here, back with another Welcome to Factions video for new players who are new to Factions. This time, I am going to focus specifically on loadout design. That's right, 5 loadouts that I think new players should check out to help them get up to speed just that much quicker. These are loadouts that I wish someone else had told me years ago. Hey, try these out, and you will be able to become successful at this game much quicker than you thought. So, one of the things that you have to decide in this game is what kind of player you want to be, and your loadout will help determine that. For me, the ideal loadout for new players, I believe, is a pure medic class. Now, the crux of this is the first aid training and the reviver. I have thrown Explosion Expert 1 on here as well, just to help beginners with their throwables a little bit. The primary and secondary, you can really choose whichever you feel comfortable, whether that's a burst rifle or a semi-auto, whatever you feel comfortable with. The main thing about this is, even if you are not very good at aiming, you will be able to generate a ton of parts through both your heals, your revives, and it'll help you upgrade your weapons and become a contributing member to your team just that much sooner. With all these parts, and with weapons like the 9mm and variable that I'm using here, you will have plenty of ammo, and you will be able to keep your team rolling just that much faster. Being a medic is a great way to start this game. So say being a medic is, for whatever reason, just not your thing. There is another loadout that I have found that is very good for new players, and I'm calling it Lucky Breakthrough. I used this a couple of months ago, and it is a pretty simple loadout. This one has a burst pistol and a semi-auto, but as well you can change those to whatever primary and secondary you feel comfortable. But the main components, the Lucky Break, the Bomb Expert, the First Aid Training 1, and the Explosion Expert 1, make for some very effective throwables. And so if your aiming is not good and you feel like you can't contribute yet in this game, feel like running a loadout like this can really help you. It'll give you bombs that you can place that are very effective with both the Explosion Expert and the Bomb Expert 2. The Lucky Break helps get you plenty of ammo, and if your team happens to be winning, if you happen to have good players in your team, you may not be doing so well yourself, but even with that, with the Lucky Break, you will get plenty of craftables, which will therefore allow you to get some downs and contribute with those many throwables that you can craft. So this is kind of a different way. Not everyone is good at aiming, and this is a way to get into it. Now the third loadout is one of the most balanced loadouts of all 5 of these. So this loadout is very interesting in that it's kind of a hybrid medic loadout. It does not have First Aid Training 3. You're not really a medic through the healing sense. It contains Reviver 2. It is called the Scavenger. So it has Scavenger 3, Reviver 2 for the quick revives, First Aid Training 1 to heal yourself, and Explosion Expert 1. The primary and secondary, like almost all of these, you can choose what's much more comfortable for you. I personally like either the variable, the semi-auto, or the burst in this capacity, with either the 9mm or the revolver. The reason I like both of those guns over something like the shorty is the most strong of all the sidearms, but it kind of will make you play in a certain style where you'll maybe become dependent upon the shorty over time. So this loadout, the way that it's set up, it is very fast-paced, very fast-paced. You're constantly both firing, picking up your ammo, and reviving your teammates. Your throwables are all just a little bit more effective with the Explosion Expert 1. And I find this balance is something that you can use on just about any map. It's effective on every single map. which is not something you can say about every single loadout. There are some that are very good on the long range maps, particularly HR style loadouts, and then you have some that are very, very good on close range maps like Wharf, Checkpoint, High School. But this scavenger makes you an effective player on any map. This next loadout is the only loadout of all these that contains the Covert training perk, and it is a Covert burst rifle loadout. Covert training 2, sharp ears 3, first aid training 1. So if you feel you have very good aim or decent enough aim for a new player, but you really have not figured out the throwables yet, or maybe just don't even like using them, then this could be a highly effective loadout for you. The burst is, in my opinion, by far the best weapon in the game, the best primary in the game. Its fire rate, its damage, its ability to take people out in one bursts is just unparalleled. So this loadout is skill dependent. It requires you to have a little bit of skill with your aiming to use effectively. Its Sharp Ears 3 allows you to really become familiar with the listen mode mechanic, as you'll be able to use the listen mode often and find out just how effective that listen mode is. The other thing about this is this loadout is very useful on small maps. Like High School here, where you have a covert training 999s hiding in bathrooms. There are certain situations where if you're going against experienced players who are using somewhat dubious loadouts, this loadout will be effective. And I'm sure some people will not think that this is a good thing to recommend to new players, telling them, oh, stay away from the burst, don't use covert training. I largely do not use covert training, but there are some situations when you're coming against really good players who do use it that you will need to use it yourself in order to be able to be competitive until you can learn the maps and become an effective player yourself. The fifth loadout design is technically a two-part loadout design, depending on which game mode you're playing. If you're playing in Supply Raid or Survivors, then you have the potential for a last man standing situation, which is why I recommend that people definitely always have an endgame loadout, a last man loadout. It could look something like this. Usually it would have Lone Wolf 2, First Aid Training 1, for sure, and then maybe some kind of purchasable, Scavenger, Explosion Expert, it doesn't matter. If you play Interrogation, you're going to have a slightly different endgame loadout. You want to make sure you'll have that Strategist 3. So, when you find yourself in a last person standing situation, one of the most important things is to try to remain as calm as possible. I know that sounds kind of crazy given the nature of this game, but try to keep your head clear. Try to breathe. Remember to breathe often and make quick moves and smart moves. And play to your strengths. Some people are great with their aiming. Some people are great with their throwables. Find out which one you are and play to your strengths, and you will find yourself coming out on top in those last man standing situations more often than not. Now, in a different game mode, in Interrogation, there is no last person standing situation. So, the end game for this is a Strategist 3 loadout. In Interrogation, I think the Strategist 3 perk is a must. I cannot tell you how many times the ability to suddenly spawn on my teammate who was near either our box or our opponent's box has been the difference in the game. Getting that extra teammate to just spawn on you instantly at a critical point is game changing. So make sure you adjust your loadouts often. If it turns out that you don't need to spawn, or if the spawn time is only a couple seconds away, go ahead and switch to a different loadout that doesn't have the Strategist 3 if you don't need it at that time. You can always switch back to it later. So, if you have any desire to play the Interrogation game mode, make sure you have a Strategist 3 loadout design on your loadouts. It is is so important for that game mode. Don't be caught without it. Last but certainly not least, I wanted to go over how I set up my custom loadout slots. My first slot is always my medic class, whereas my second slot is always a covert training class as well. I keep my last man standing in the third slot. I usually have some kind of new one that I'm trying out in the fourth slot. The fifth one is either a sharpshooter 3 or a strategist 3 slot, and that's what is there now. And then the last one is usually often something I'm trying out. In this case, it is a a sharpshooter 3 covert training that I saw a streamer use. So yeah, I hope these hints helped you, and I hope you are enjoying Factions so far. If you have any questions, please let me know. All right, have a wonderful rest of your day. Cheers.